Did you realise that you'd be listening to an Englishman speak today? Now, I'm sure you've heard an English accent before, but maybe only on TV. Dick Van Dyke's English from Mary Poppins, or posh English from Downton Abbey. But my accent is slightly different. It's from a place called Leeds, in the county of Yorkshire, in the north of England, 4,038 miles away from Oshkosh. I'm glad I'm not walking home. That's a bit too far, isn't it? Now, I know accents can be difficult, but they're not impossible, because nothing is impossible. Or should I say, anything is possible. But how many times have you heard somebody say that? And is it really true? Because you can't run a mile in 20 seconds, you can't live forever, and you can't fly by flapping your arms, especially not if you've just got one like me. But what I believe, truly believe, is that each and every one of you is capable of achieving far more than you think is possible for you. Now, during the next 45 minutes, I'd like to help you realise that by sharing with you my journey of discovery. A journey that started here, in an area of Leeds, my home city, locally known as Buggy Park. And not because it was a beautiful greenfield park, as you can see, but it was a slum housing estate where all the houses were infested with bugs, cockroaches, woodlice, and a nasty little insect called a silverfish that created havoc on your respiratory system. Now, during the 1960s in the UK, there was a programme of slum clearances, and Buggy Park was razed to the ground, and the land was incinerated to eradicate the bug infestation. And we were moved out into the Scott Hall estate of Leeds. But in the 1960s, the Scott Hall estate was a rough council estate. That's a social housing estate. But it was 10 times better than where we just left. This is me and my sister Tracy. This is one of those photographs that really embarrasses me. You know, you look back at over the passage of time. But I love it for that reason. But I wish I'd pulled my fly up and buttoned my shirt. Actually, I couldn't, because the zip in my trousers didn't work. I had no buttons on my shirt, and every day my mum would cut out cardboard insoles for my shoes to stop my feet from falling through the holes in the bottom. We were super poor. In fact, you don't see poverty like that today, do you? But despite being super poor, we were happy children. And we were happy children because we had mum. And to me and Tracy, our mum was a rock. But to Dad, she was something else. She was a punch bag. Now, Mum realised that she had to end that cycle of violence, so she did the best thing she could do for me and Tracy, something she didn't think was possible for her to do. And she left Dad when I was 4. In fact, I remember saying to Mum one day, "Mum, you don't cry anymore." I didn't realise it's because Dad wasn't there to beat her. But now Dad had gone, we were a happy little family unit, just me, Tracy and Mum. Except for one thing. I hated school. And I hated school with a vengeance. And I hated school for good reason, because I was bullied throughout my school life. But it got worse when I went to high school, because I started with acne. This is one of the only photographs I have at that time, because after this, my acne got so bad, I didn't want photographs taken. In fact, I remember going to the doctor's surgery with my mum one day, and people got up and walked out complaining to my mum that she shouldn't have brought an infectious child into a public area. I wasn't infectious, but I did look it. Girls didn't see me at school. I was invisible to them. The only people that saw me were the bullies. And I was beaten up on a daily basis. School was hell. It was torture. It was so bad, I only attended 2 days out of 5. And that wasn't official, mind. And on one of my days off, I had to go on a friend's motorbike. And it was brilliant. I loved it. And my friend said to me, "You can buy this motorbike if you want, Steve. I want £10 for it." That was like $10. £10, I said. £10 was like £1 million to me. I've got no money. I've got nothing of any value. Except I did have one thing. I had an Instamatic camera. Does anybody remember them? They were like the brilliant, weren't they? They were like the predecessor to the digital camera. You'd take a photograph, you'd pull the film out of the back, you'd wave it around and you'd watch it develop. They were great. In actual fact, I was in a camera shop just a couple of weeks ago. Did you know they're all the rage again? We've gone full circle. Isn't that crazy, that, isn't it? To this day, I'm not certain where I got that camera from. I think I got it from my auntie. But I managed to sell that camera to my mate's sister for £5. I thought, I'm halfway there. I thought, I'm going to have that motorbike. Nothing's going to stop me. I'll do whatever it takes. So I went out and I washed people's cars. And I hated washing cars. And I went out and I did gardening. And I hated gardening. In that respect, I was your typical teenager. I pretty much hated everything. But I pulled out all the stops and I got that £10 and I bought that motorbike. Isn't it amazing how we can pull out all the stops when we really have to? Sometimes in life, we have to do the things we don't like to get the things we want. This was my motorbike. I was brilliant on that motorbike. I could go up and down the steepest of hills, I could get over any obstacle, and I could pull the best wheelies. Finally, there was something I was good at, and something I had to look forward to at the end of the day. It didn't matter that girls didn't see me, because I had a motorbike, and for me, that was enough. And on one of my days out, on my bike, I met this young kid. He was called Michael Ty. He was 12 and I was 13. And he could do the same sort of things that I could do. And he could keep up with me. And together we'd go out and have these wonderful, wonderful adventures. But there was another kid who wanted to join us on his motorbike too. Only thing is, he wasn't a kid. He was a 30-year-old man that wanted to join me, the 13-year-old, and my mate Michael, the 12-year-old. But this 30-year-old man couldn't do the things that we could do, and he couldn't keep up with us. And frankly, he was dangerous. So we avoided him until the 19th of April, 1982, when I was now an 18-year-old. Because that was the day I couldn't avoid him anymore. Because that was the day he thought he could do a daredevil-type stunt on his motorbike, jump over the top of me and my motorbike from a blind hill without me even knowing he was there. But he didn't have the ability he thought he had, and he couldn't make the jump, and instead he landed on top of me. His foot peg ripped my arm off there and then. It landed 100 yards away from me. His motorbike then went into my chest, collapsed and punctured both my lungs, ruptured my liver, ruptured my gallbladder, ruptured my spleen, fractured my pelvis, and broke my leg. In fact, you could say I was in a bad way. But it was worse than that. I died 3 times on the operating table. I remember opening my eyes, and there was an angel looking down on me. That angel was called Janet, by the way, and she was a staff nurse at the Leeds General Infirmary, but she truly was an angel. She had the most beautiful long blonde hair, the most perfect complexion I'd ever seen, and piercing blue eyes that looked right into my soul. And she said in a soft and gentle voice, "Stephen, you've had an accident on your motorbike. You're in the Leeds General Infirmary, but you've lost your right arm. 5 minutes later, she'd walk past again and she'd say, Steve, you've had an accident on your bike, you're in the Leeds General Infirmary, but you've lost your right arm. 5 minutes later, and every 5 minutes later, somebody would walk past and say to me, Steve, you've had an accident on your motorbike, you do know where you are, don't you? And you do know you've lost your right arm, don't you? I thought, rubbish, lost my right arm. What are they talking about? I could still feel it. I can still feel it now. But the more I thought about that, the more I realised I knew a lot of people that were suffering from something very similar. Phantom barriers. Barriers that were stopping people doing the things that they wanted to do. Barriers that were stopping people achieving the things that they really wanted to achieve in life. Barriers that feel real, but just like my right arm, aren't really there. Now, a lot of us have phantom barriers. Not everybody, but a lot of us do. The first step to conquering them is to recognise them. Now, Janet did everything for me, the most personal of care, and I'm a spotty, ugly, insecure little boy. And here was this beautiful young woman doing all this personal care. And I was humbled by that experience. Not only that, she gave a mean bed bath. She was beautiful. I think I fell in love for the first time in my life on Ward 16 with an angel. Now, everybody on Ward 16 was bedbound. So if you wanted to use a toilet, you had to use a commode. But one day I said to Janet, oh, please, Janet, will you take me to a proper toilet? So Janet said, okay, I will, she said, but when you've finished, give me a shout so I can come and clean you up. I couldn't do a thing for myself. Janet, I've finished. So Janet came to clean me up, and then she took me to the wash basin to wash my hands. Now, Janet had forgotten there was a mirror in the bathroom. And mirrors weren't allowed on Ward 16. And they weren't allowed for good reason, because everybody was mutilated and disfigured. But Janet had taken me to the staff toilets, and she'd forgotten there was a mirror in the bathroom. And that's when I saw it for the first time. I couldn't believe my eyes. All my spots had gone. All my spots had gone. I thought, wow, they'd gone. I looked in the mirror again. I thought, oh yeah, my right arm has gone. They were telling me the truth. I thought, never mind, fair trade. My acne had gone. Isn't it amazing how we can see the good in what at first might seem like a bad situation? We all have a choice to see the good or bad in anything. You too have the same capacity that I have. I'm no different from you. Well, except I'm an Englishman in Oshkosh. I've only got one arm, and I'm super good looking, of course. But that's it. That one always gets a laugh, you know, the super good looking one. I'm not quite sure why. I looked in that mirror. I was the happiest that I'd ever been. This wave of euphoria swept over me, and I had an epiphany. And I realised I wasn't a spotty boy anymore. Thanks to all the medication they'd given me in hospital, it cleared up my acne. But I also realised I wasn't a shy little boy anymore. Thanks to all the medication, thanks to all the personal care that the female staff had given me, I'd desensitised. But I also realised I wasn't a weak little boy, because I'd overcome major trauma and I'd survived. I walked in that bathroom a shy, spotty, insecure little boy, and I walked out a strong, proud young man, ready to face the world. But I also realised that all my job opportunity had gone. And I thought to myself, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Remember those choices we have? I realised it was a great thing, because no longer would I be constrained by a 9-to-5 job. No longer would somebody tell me what to do, but I would go out there. I would create my own future, my own destiny. I would enjoy myself. and hopefully earn some money along the way. I was a one-handed motor mechanic. I was very good. I was a bit slow, but I was very good. This, by the way, is another one of those photographs that really embarrasses me. Have you seen those jogging pants? And look at that moustache. You know, the rite of passage of any young man, fellas, we know this, don't we, is when you can grow a moustache, you're a real man. I was the height of fashion, you know, back in the 80s. Then I was a break dancer, and they paid me for this. My breakdancing group was called Chain Reaction. Have you heard of us? Do you know, nobody ever has, but I doubted anybody in America would have heard of us. I was really good though. By the way, I've just noticed something about this photograph. Have you spotted it? I'm wearing the same jogging pants. You know what they say about Yorkshiremen? So I'm a Yorkshireman. They say that Yorkshiremen are really tight. I'm not quite sure whether it's true or not, but I did have them jogging pants for 10 years. So it might be true. There's a saying, by the way, and it's you can take the man out of Yorkshire, but you can never take Yorkshire out of the man. I don't know whether that's true or not. Then I got involved with vintage jukeboxes and vintage one-arm bandits. Hang on, is that a pun in America as well? Actually, I said to a friend before I set off here, an American friend, I said, I'm going to tell this joke, and it's about one-arm bandits, and I said, and I've only got one arm, so I said, will they get it? She said, one-arm bandit is an American word. I said, oh, bonus, I can use it. I didn't realise we'd stolen that word from you guys. I've bought and sold and restored vintage jukeboxes and vintage one-arm bandits around the world. I've met some incredible people, millionaires, billionaires, rock stars. But I got a little bit worried because I didn't want to vegetate or become a deadhead. Because my education really had suffered. I thought, what am I going to do about that? And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go to night school. Well, it was night time. I studied everything. Mathematics, electronics, Spanish language, metalwork, woodwork, furniture restoration, cabinet making, you name it, I studied it until eventually I'd exhausted all the night school classes. And I thought, what am I going to do now? I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go to university. But I haven't got any qualifications from school. We call them in the UK, we have GCSEs and A-levels. I think you have course grades, don't you, in the US, and SATs. So I've got none of them. I've got nothing whatsoever from school. But I have a first-class honours degree in computer science from Leeds Metropolitan University. The first one in my family to ever attend university. I didn't even start until the age of 35. And I didn't graduate until I was 40. I know what you're thinking. I don't look a day over 40. I was hoping you were thinking that. I am, only just. I'm super proud of this. Super proud. You're never, ever, ever too old to learn. Now, for my final year project, I had to create a piece of software. And I thought, well, what do I know about? And I realised I knew about jukeboxes. So I created a piece of software for a digital, touchscreen, MP3, all singing, all dancing jukebox. But I went one step further. Because I knew about electronics, I created the hardware to software interfacing. Because I knew about cabinet making, woodwork, furniture restoration, I created a complete cabinet. And I created a complete jukebox, and I took that jukebox into university. This was my jukebox. After university, I went on to further develop this system and launched my company, Robinson's Jukeboxes Limited. During the first 8 months of trading, I sold 400 jukeboxes. Get in there! I had created a £1 million product, single-handed. I think that's a pun. I think it is in England. I think it might be over here as well. Everybody wanted my digital jukebox because it outperformed its nearest competitor at a fraction of the cost. I had so much money coming in, I didn't know what to do with it. At one point, I had a cheque in my hand for £100,000. That's like $130,000 from one sale of 40 jukeboxes. Me, the kid who walked to school with holes in his shoes. What do you think I called my digital jukebox? I called it the silverfish.